This rain had been falling for an entire week. Inside this black box, time had completely lost all meaning. My world had been reduced to nothing but a few square meters of darkness before me, to shut out the ever-thickening stench of corpses outside. I turned this place into an airtight coffin with my own hands. That clock had run countless laps, and I was still here, lying like a corpse, for a full 7 days. The solar controller had long gone dead, with no power. The fresh air system had completely shut down. Even tightly wrapped in my thickest down blanket, the chill still seeped through every gap. My hand could not be restrained as it reached for the gas stove switch. At that moment, I really wanted to turn it on, even if just for a sip of hot soup, but I didn't dare. In this sealed room with no ventilation like this, either carbon monoxide would kill me, or the smell of the canned meat would drive the frenzied, ravenous neighbors outside straight into the room. I pulled my hand back, lifting the ice-cold can of meat, its surface coated with a thick layer of fat. The feeling of scooping with a spoon was like digging into candle wax. I shoved it into my mouth. The icy fat smeared against the roof of my mouth. That rich, greasy taste really made me want to gag. I buried myself back into the darkness, inside this box with no power, no light, and there was not a shred of hope left. I forced myself to get through it, bit by bit, enduring the long, endless despair as it dragged on. A few days later, a laser-sharp beam of sunlight suddenly pierced through this coffin. At this moment, the dust that had lain in dead silence for a whole week danced wildly in the shaft of light. Then, a crisp electronic chime rang out. That was the resurrected heartbeat of this fortress. The green light on the solar controller is flashing uncontrollably. The input power has skyrocketed to 860 watts. But I don't have time to feel any joy. The first thing I do is dash straight to the new ventilation system. Because the corpses downstairs are soaked and rotting from the flood, it has fermented, producing ammonia and hydrogen sulfide, and regular filters can't stop it at all. Only the 10-kilogram industrial-grade activated carbon is capable of purifying the air. A soft whirry sound echoed. Immediately, the fan blades began to spin. That's the sound of lung lobes re-expanding. The death-laden air that had stagnated for a week finally began to circulate. After confirming that the ventilation system had been restored, I immediately filled the foldable kettle with water and powered it on. This kettle consumes 600 watts. Meanwhile, the current solar input is 860 watts. This means I can not only have hot water, but also have extra power to recharge most of my devices, drones, cameras, and hand warmers. Looking at the row of flashing green lights on the power strip, the sense of safety from having total control instantly flooded me. A moment later, I threw myself back onto the couch. On my legs lay a warming electric blanket, holding a steaming cup of coffee in my hands. The hot steam hit my face, mixed with the long mist aroma of toasted coffee, along with the white noise coming from the new ventilation system. It was truly more soothing than a symphony. On this hellish morning, this few hundred watts of power has made me a civilized human again. But before long, the dark brown liquid in the cup suddenly began rippling in violent waves. Right after that, the acoustic foam on the wall began to resonate, vibrating in response. This wasn't thunder. This was an industrial roar, even more oppressive than a natural disaster. I set the cup down and grabbed the 600mm monster lens. Through the electronic viewfinder, I secured the source of that sound. A gray-black C-295 transport plane screamed past, scraping just above the city's rooftops. Its belly opened, and several parachute-equipped crates were dropped. The vivid orange parachutes suddenly opened in midair, carrying supply crates stamped with aid, swaying and wobbling as they descended. This could be a humanitarian aid operation, or perhaps some kind of test. This scene looked truly full of hope, but also exactly like a meticulously staged performance. Fingers twisted the zoom ring, and the distance space was compressed to an extreme. One of the crates fell heavily, landing right in the center of an intersection 2 blocks away, right in the middle of an open stretch of asphalt road, with no buildings around to provide any cover. Through the lens, I could see the extreme heat, causing the air to warp in strange distortions. Dozens of survivors in tattered clothes jostled each other in puddles of standing water. Suddenly, From the rim of the frame surged a tidal wave of gray-white. The monsters that had long lurked in the shadows charged into the blazing sun. The intense ultraviolet rays hit them, causing their gray-white skin to instantly rise in a bluish-gray smoke. But even this savage burning could not stop the rampaging virus inside their bodies. It seemed as if their pain-sensing nerves had been completely severed. They let the smoke rise all over their bodies, emitting silent roars. They frenziedly lunged at the mass of living flesh. The black tide of undead instantly swallowed them, and the rolling thick smoke obscured all the bloodshed. Only countless twisted black silhouettes remained, struggling within the vivid orange. The high-frequency hum of the motor carried my gaze, soaring above the block, where the bus had become a solitary island of death. Countless undead that knew no fatigue and felt no pain kept forcing their way upward. The ones in front had just fallen, when the ones behind climbed over their bodies to crawl upward. In just a few seconds, that figure had already vanished into the encirclement of the undead, like a speck of dust sinking into a swamp. I expressionlessly pushed the control stick forward. The drone began gaining altitude. The camera tilted upward, toward the far end of the city. On the horizon, the once clear highway exit had now been cut off by a hopeless barricade. It was made of countless red, blue, and white shipping containers, stacked across one another into a towering multi-layered wall. The white-painted words across the containers looked utterly horrifying. Quarantine zone, no entry. Between the wall and the city buildings lay a deliberately flattened buffer zone. On it were countless desiccated corpses scattered everywhere. Beyond the wall, rows of armored vehicles and anti-aircraft guns stood in formation, coldly aimed at the sky, and at us as well. That was the boundary of the civilized world, and also a gateway of cold cruelty. They had stacked the containers into a wall. No rescue, no evacuation. The low battery warning was flashing wildly in the center of the screen. As the drone was preparing to auto-return, the camera immediately swept across the St. Lenga Financial Center opposite. The massive deep blue glass curtain wall, like a perfect mirror reflecting the blue sky and white clouds, until an impossible shadow suddenly appeared in the frame. That wasn't the reflection of clouds. It clung to the smooth vertical glass surface, as though being pulled into it. The camera moved in closer. That is an extremely deformed humanoid figure. The body fat percentage on his body is nearly zero, like a layer of ash-gray dry paper tightly wrapped around the bones. His limbs have undergone a grotesque, abnormal stretching, like a humanoid spider. His knuckle joints are enlarged and deformed. Suddenly, it didn't turn around. Instead, its neck let out a sharp crack. Then its head suddenly twisted backward. In that moment, I had a feeling the thing it was looking at wasn't the drone. That cold, greedy gaze carried an unsettling intelligence, as if it had followed the radio signal straight through the screen, locking onto me, the one hiding in the shadows. Instinctively, I looked toward the sealed window and the drain pipe leading up to the rooftop. People were able to climb that pipe before, then this thing to it would be like walking on flat ground.